fatal heart impact, past painful scars. In fact, I blast tasteful bars and pass. I back up my actions, fact, don't ask, grab reactions, jacked, attack with every word, then act with class as they hear me snap. I got nothing to lose, cause I fought and felt the bruise. Now I'm not the one confused, call the shots and they produce. I ain't lost, I'm finally loose, pick a new silver excuse. I need the views to boost me to a new abuse of being used. Everybody wants a piece now, y'all can rest in peace now. You're dead to me, so peace out. Remember you're discreet now, get ready for defeat now.
Alrighty. Hello everybody. This is Kiru's show here, and now, whenever we last left off with this series, we had Izuku and his party. His party consists of Belle, the former servant girl turned mage, Lee, the swordsman Midoriya encountered and has been training as his apprentice, and Rei, the strange person who has begun to follow him. Midoriya faced off against her in the King's World Game, where he did win. And Rei, she now has an obsession with Midoriya since he's the strongest opponent she has ever met. Now, with that being said, Midoriya, after winning these games, the king did basically take away Midoriya's license to adventure. Meaning that the guild, they would not give Midoriya quest. And Midoriya, he did what any reasonable psychopath in his situation would do. He was going to take the king's head and put it on a spike and then burn his land to the ground. However, the princess did tell Midoriya that she will try to talk to her father. And Midoriya, he was not going to have it. The girl could talk to her father, but he knows exactly what type of man that guy is. Just like Oswald, he's an unhinged psychopath who cannot be reasoned with. However, Faye, she did grab Midoriya's attention with the quest she tried to tell him they can team up on. Midoriya, he had no interest in it, until he found out that this was a dragon slaying quest. Now, Midoriya, he did then max out certain stats with as many skill points as he could. And the four, I should say, did head out. Now, they are currently tracking down the location where this thing was last seen at. 50 miles away from the capital on top of a mountain. We do have Midoriya and his crew. Where Midoriya, he has been looking around. Not much has been seen. The top of the mountain, it does show signs of being covered in both snow and ice. And that is particularly weird. And Midoriya, he does try to think back about how dragons worked in fantasy novels and at least books he has heard about. These things are, well, strange. Most of them, they breathe fire, as it's believed. However, in video games and stuff like that, they can be attuned to a certain element if he does remember. And the fact that there's ice this low down in elevation, it did pique his curiosity, wondering if this was one of those situations where it's an elemental-based, well, opponent. Now, Midoriya, he would be proven right. Whenever they follow and track down the signs of all this ice and snow, they do come upon what appears to be a giant sphere of ice. And Midoriya, he would quickly go to move down. Now, as Midoriya, he's sliding down the mountain, he does at least maintain focus on this sphere. And he does wonder. They just spent 2 hours looking for this damn thing. And that's 2 hours of frustration that he's built up. Now, Midoriya, he would go to then and enter the sphere through one of the cracks it does have. As when he does so, he does find a complete land of ice. And what he believes was a village, which looks like it has been completely frozen in time. Now, this is quite the surprise. Midoriya, he did not expect this. He expected that this was its home or some sort of cave, but that's not it. Now, Midoriya, he did then begin to look around. As the rest of his party, they did join up, or at least follow him into this thing, and were shocked at the same discovery. Now, Midoriya, he does then begin to look around some, and search for survivors. In every house Midoriya has walked into, everyone's frozen in time. Some with looks of horror on their face. Others half-eaten and at least still in the ice, where they had their last living moments. Now, it does somewhat frighten Midoriya. The idea that there's a thing that exists that can do this. It's kind of scary in a way. However, at the same time, it's very interesting. Now, Midoriya, he would walk out of one house, as he does then go to look around. Lee actually shouting, "Sir." As Midoriya, he does look over at her, and his eyes do widen, as if to tell her to quiet down. Now, you do actually then have where Midoriya, he does hear a loud roar. And he doesn't go to spin back around at Lee and tell her to get the hell out of here, and that he'll handle this thing on his own. Now, as Midoriya, he does say that, you do actually have where Lee, she does go to rush forwards. Her going to join by her master's side. She's not going to let her teacher fight this thing alone. And there is actually then where while she's running towards Midoriya, she does slow down her pace. Before her eyes go from looking determined and she's going to do this, she's going to fight, she's going to be by her master's side, she does look up, and her gaze does go from Midoriya to something up in the air behind him. And she does completely drop to her knees in fear. That's what she does see. Now, you do actually have Midoriya who would spin back around. And you do have the giant beast that does just start to walk their way. Now, this is very strange. Midoriya actually spinning around and seeing it for himself. Him going to use Mana Sense and being able to see the outline of the large beast. It looks like it has flames of mana coming off of it. Midoriya, he does quickly go to run to the side whenever he does hear something. That does sound like ice breaking, as it did breathe a large gust of cold magic directly towards Midoriya. Midoriya, he moved out of the way. If he didn't take a step, one of his legs could have been caught, and he would have been held stationary. Now, Midoriya, he has been in a cold climate before, and this place, it's pretty cold. Even he himself does feel it through his wolf pelts and his own armor. Now, you do actually then have Rei, who she does go to move in, talking about how this is going to be a pretty fun battle. Now, she does go to rush in, as the dragon, it does go to breathe fire, or at least breathe ice, in her direction, and she does go to dodge out of the way to the right, heading on the other side of this beast. Now, we do actually have Midoriya. After he does go to stop and slide, he does do a double sword slash, as his, sword strike does fly through the air and directly cut into the side of the dragon. Now, the dragon would scream out in pain, and Midoriya, he would actually begin to start seeing blue blood pour out of the wound, as he does think, okay, he knows his strikes do damage, so that does mean he can kill it. Now, Midoriya, he does get ready for another one. Him going to bring back his hands and go for another strike, as the dragon does swing its body his way and directly go for him. It charging at Midoriya as he does see that. It's then going to breathe ice at Midoriya as he does go to bring up his hands and go to cast a fireball. As it does happen, the two elements they do collide in the air and Midoriya he's blasted backwards through the sphere. Now, Midoriya he does get sent flying about 200 feet out of the dome as he does smash into the ground. And you do actually have Rei who she does land on the dragon and begin to start pummeling it with her mace. Or this strange bat with metal studs inside of it. Now, she's hitting down at the dragon's back, and she's just doing brute strength attacks over and over and over again, striking at the same area to weaken it. The dragon, it's easily bringing back its tail and being able to move its body. As she does go sliding down the side of one of it, or sliding down its side, as it does then get, she does then get hit by its tail. Her get being sent flying away and smashing into a house, as does go for Midoriya. Now, Midoriya, he does get back up, and he does have his sword in his hands. Him just wondering. This thing, it's an ice dragon. What's the opposite of ice? Fire. This thing saw his fireball, so it's coming forward to take him down immediately. It doesn't like the heat. Now, Midoriya he does look up at it, as he does try to evaluate what level this creature is. And Midoriya he does see that it's a level 90 encounter, along with a system warning him that this creature is a double XP event, meaning that it will not be easy to defeat. Now, Midoriya he does smirk. As this wyvern, it does go to bring back its giant arm and directly smash it downwards towards Midoriya. Midoriya dodging out of the way as it does then go to stab and slice directly into its wrist. Midoriya stabbing it and then at least trying to cast more fireballs. Midoriya, as he does hold his sword into its wrist, he does bring up his right hand, smashing it directly in the chest with a fireball as it does scream out in pain and go to throw up its hand. Midoriya holding onto it, as the creature, it does look at him. Midoriya's blade, he does spin it and begin to start sliding it down the creature's forearm. And the creature, it does go to cast ice magic directly into its own arm. Midoriya watching as he does jump out and off of its arm with his blade. The creature sealing its own wound, as it does then go to spin around and directly hit Midoriya with its own tail. Midoriya being struck by it as he's sent flying in through the air. Now, as it does happen, you do actually then have Midoriya, who he does go to throw back his hand and go to bring up a giant wall, using his elemental earth magic. Now, as Midoriya he does do that, he does actually just float there for 1 second, as he does then break the piece of earth free and begin to start sending it flying towards the air and directly towards the dragon. As Midoriya he does right on top of this thing, you do actually have Rei, Lee, and Bella, who they do see Midoriya. Rei commenting on how she needs to get back in there and fight, as Midoriya he does spin in her direction and shout, "No!" Now, as Midoriya he did do that, the dragon it did go to fire ice directly at Midoriya. As Midoriya, he did leap off of the giant boulder, and it did cover the boulder in ice. The boulder then smashing into the dragon as Midoriya he's up in the air. And with one of his arms, he does go to cast a fireball, while the other one he does hold the sword and go to make a double sword slash. Now, Midoriya he directly does send the slash that way, him then reversing his grip on the blade and then doing it once again, sending 4 slashes down into the dragon's back, along with that giant fireball that does hit it directly on the neck. Now, Midoriya he does come down, and with his blade he does stab it into the dragon's back, as it does scream out in pain. Now, as it does happen, you actually have with the thing, it does start to flap its wings and start moving. And Midoriya he does try to hold on, him digging his hand into the wound along with his hand on his blade, forcing it deeper into its back. as this thing starts to take Midoriya for a wild ride, it flying up into the air. Now, it's rocketing up into the top of the atmosphere at high speeds, and it's making sure that Midoriya, he will either fall off and die due to the high atmosphere he falls from, or he either loses consciousness from the inability to stay or his body to withstand these speeds and heights. Now, Midoriya, he does hold on, him having to slide his blade downwards as he does then at least stick his hand deeper into the wound. And he does actually just go to start stabbing into it over and over again with his weapon. Now, eventually the creature, it does start to dive directly down towards the ground. And we do then have where Midoriya, he does go to let go of it as he does begin to start falling, and this thing is still diving. Now, the distance, it has been closed. And you do then have where this thing, it directly does spin around towards Midoriya. Midoriya, he's about to directly fall into this dragon's mouth. And you do actually have where Lee, she does want to rush in. However, she does know that her master, he does have this. He's always overcome great odds, right? However, this creature, she can't handle it. Now, she is going to try and run towards the battlefield, as we actually do have in the kingdom, where the knights have informed the king that the dragon in the mountain nearby, it is heading towards their capital. And the king, he is quite surprised. However, at the same time, he's also quite happy. So the adventurer couldn't kill this thing anyways, and he's dead. Now, we do actually have where he does deploy the knights, informing the men that he wants every knight in the city on standby outside. Along with that, he does want him to evacuate their citizens, and at least get every adventurer they can to try to protect this city. Now, the man, he's putting everybody all hands on deck. That supposed self-claimed hero, as his daughter did pronounce, is dead. So this does mean that he will show what his men are capable of. Now, we do cut back to Midoriya, as he does fly directly into the dragon's mouth, right before it did cast its ice magic and he was swallowed whole. As Midoriya, he did actually then go to fly deeper into its gut. And he did land in its stomach, before looking around. Now, Midoriya, he's just thinking. He didn't expect to be eaten today. However, now he doesn't have to deal with aiming attacks. Now, we do then have the dragon, where it's flying towards the capital. And people are trying to gather outside as fast as possible. Now, we do then have Midoriya, he does go to cast his maximum level fireball, level 9. As he does cast it deeper into the dragon's gut. Now, the dragon, it did go to try and breathe ice. However, the moment it did have trouble, as it did begin to start falling out of the air. And it did smash directly onto the ground about 5 miles outside of the city. Now, the leader of the knights, they did see the dragon in the distance, and he did order his men to go in for the attack. However, the dragon, it did just get back up and try to breathe ice. This being where a puff of ice, it does shoot out and hit the ground, before it does just spit out water. And then blood begins to start pouring from its mouth. Now, this is where people, they are either frozen in fear or charging in, thinking that they'll at least try to fight for their kingdom. Now, the people who are watching do watch as something comes flying out of the dragon's mouth. And you do actually have Midoriya, he does come flying out and landing on the ground. Him getting back up, he does have specks of ice covering his body. Now, Midoriya, he does directly look at the dragon, As he does, watch it try to get back up and onto its feet. Midoriya bringing up his hand and casting Fireball right down its throat. As the thing, it does swallow this, and begin to start burning from the inside out, taking quite a lot of damage. Now, you do also then have Midoriya, who he does get a unique skill from this, Acid Resistance, which has already jumped to level 3. Now, the dragon is going to stand up as it does try to smash down at Midoriya. Midoriya dodging out of the way as he does sidesweep it to the left, bringing his hand up and with all of his strength slicing downwards into the dragon's arm, as he does directly sever it. Now, the dragon, it would actually go to move back its arm and scream out in pain, as Midoriya, he does then go to cast Fireball again. Now, the dragon, it does knock him away with its tail, and he's sent flying backwards, smashing into the ground before getting back up. Midoriya, he's covered in blood. Along with that, some of his clothes have been burned off. However, he does still maintain his weapon and his fighting spirit. Along with that, he does have wounds covering his entire body. And people, they do see this hero as they do proclaim him, as he's, well, still alive. And you do actually have the king who's looking at the situation using observation magic, and he finds it impossible. This man still lives? He still draws breath? Now, you do actually then have Midoriya, who he does decide that with everybody here, he better show off the actual power he does hold. As he does he does grin before bringing up his sword. As he does go to cast his sword beam skill, or his, what did I write it down here as? Sword beam, yeah. I'll come up with a better name for this later. Anyways, now, as right he does, so he does actually draw a bigger circle. This thing about, let's just say, 5 feet long and 5 feet wide. Now, as right he does cast this giant thing, he does actually then go to slice it over and over. Midoriya slicing it from left to right and then up to down. As he does so, he does then actually go to stab his blade outwards as the beam, it does fire. Now, the beam, it does cut through the battlefield. And you do actually have Midoriya, he does actually maintain the beam and blast more of his mana into his hands, as the beam, it does just instantly throw itself directly into the dragon, and cover it with a large explosion. Now, the king, he is shocked, as his observation magic is disrupted. And you do actually have where he does sit on his throne. Whatever that was, it just shook the kingdom. And you do actually have where Midoriya, he is standing there still on his legs. And he is struggling to keep on his feet. The acid from that thing hurts a lot. Along with that, apparently his ice resistance, or at least, well, what is it? Resistance to cold weather isn't high enough of a level. Midoriya, him actually going to pull these pieces of ice off of his arms as skin does also come off as well. Now, Midoriya, he does start to walk forwards, as his regeneration is starting to kick in. Midoriya really needs to start putting more and more things into that skill, since it just saved his ass. Along with that, there's the fact that if he didn't have that magic ring, he probably would be in a lot worse situation, ending up as dragon food. Now, as Midoriya, he does step forwards, he does see the dragon, which is still alive in the smoking crater. And behind the dragon, the mountain that used to be there is also at least partially destroyed. Now, the dragon, it's struggling to stay on its feet, or at least one claw, and, well, 2 feet, which are both covered in not only cuts and bruises and tons of blood, but there's also the fact that Midoriya, he just blew off one of this dragon's wings, meaning that it can no longer fly. Now, Midoriya, he did then actually go to rush forwards and rush in, as he does send out a fury of sword slashes over and over and over again. Now, people, they do look at what Midoriya is doing, and Midoriya, he does just do this in a frenzy, and he does begin to start going berserk with his attack. Over and over and over again, he's relentless, and he doesn't even give this thing any room to move. This thing screaming out in pain with each attack that it does get hit with. And you do actually have one Midoriya, he does charge in after this thing does hit the ground. Him directly landing on the dragon's head is just to stab his sword down over and over and over again. Relentlessly and without mercy. Over and over. Now, there is eventually one Midoriya, he is gifted his reward. XP and a unique skill. Dragonslayer. Now, people, they do start to begin to crowd around the area. As Midoriya, he does stand up and he does let out a vicious scream. Now, people, they do cheer for Midoriya, as he does then look back in their direction and they do see his face. Midoriya is covered in blue blood, along with what seems to be purple and red, guessing that his and the dragon has mixed. And the fact is that his eyes are pure red. Now, Midoriya, he does hear something that he does not listen to. Him hearing this thing that he can't understand, as he does go to look down at his sword. Now, his sword does begin to start glowing bright red, as it does tell him unique parameters met. Now, Midoriya's sword does begin to change and evolve. Now, as Midoriya's blade does do this, he does stare at it, as he does actually feel that the weight of it, it's gotten heavier. And Midoriya, he does then go to step off of the dragon that he just killed. Now, Midoriya, he does just stare down at his blade, as he just released every ounce of anger he had towards the king at this beast. Now, he does ask his system exactly what was that, as a different voice can be heard than his system. Unique skill set seen. Unique requirement met. 1,000 souls obtained by sword. Next milestone, 10,000. Souls? Now, Midoriya, he is trying to think about that. Souls. Wait, that's about people he's killed, isn't it? Somewhere around 1,000? That has to be it. Every creature he's encountered, every person he's slain with his sword. That has to add up somehow, right? That has to be related. Now, you do actually have one Midoriya's party. They do come to meet up with him. And they do see him. As Midoriya, he does turn around and see Bell, Lee, and Ray. As we actually have Midoriya, he does look at them and go to drop down onto his knees for a second. As he's trying to think. Oh shit. Now, Midoriya, he does try to look at his stats, looking to see that he is still suffering from ice damage from the dragon, along with the acid damage and, well, damage over time. Now, he also does see that his stamina has been depleted, along with his entire reserve of mana, and his health is super low. The fact that he managed to escape this encounter alive is insane. His regeneration is keeping him alive at this current moment. And the fact is, if Ray doesn't, well, Bell, not Ray, heal him right now, he might actually die. Now, Ray, she does look down at the battle. And see that Midoriya, he did just slay this unique thing. And she'll just think, she's gonna have to inform everybody back home that she's met an actual dragon slayer. And she does try to think, though. If she does inform people of this, many men from their village will come to challenge Midoriya for the right of the strongest. However, there's also the fact that every female in her own village, they'll come after him as well. And that does pose a large problem. Now, she does decide that she'll keep this on her own for right now. However, she does at least want to message somebody back home. Now, with that being said, we do actually have later that night, where Midoriya, he does go to go to sit up at an inn where he's confused. Now, as Midoriya he does sit up, he's told that he needs to stay still, and that he barely is alive. What the fuck happened? You're awake. What happened, Belle? You killed it. Killed what? The dragon. You did it. All by yourself. Huh. Thanks. Ow. Is that the reason why I feel like shit? Well, we did have to heal you on the battlefield. Along with that, we did have to use fire magic to get rid of those icicles covering your body. I guess I need to thank you then. Don't thank me. It was a high-level mage. He's the one who helped out. Along with that, a few of them actually did help me heal you. That's good. But I'm just... How are you so strong? You wouldn't believe me if I told you. Now, Belle, she does try to understand Midoriya. She wants to know more. Exactly how is it possible? A human doesn't improve this quickly, can they? Now, Midoriya he would turn to her, as she just stared at Midoriya. Dorziya, humans, they don't improve as fast as you, right? Are you unique? Maybe. Then again, I don't know. Now, Midoriya he does go to open his, menu, and at least go to check his level. He was at level 35. However, now he's at level 72. Him jumping up with this information. What the hell? Now, you do actually have where Belle, she does ask him what's wrong. And Midoriya he doesn't go over to his skill tree, where he's awarded the skill Dragonslayer. Along with that, an entire branch of skills do pop open. Now, Midoriya he is confused. However, he does look at this more. Okay, so what did he do then? So much magic power. So many skills. I have 1,000 skill points? Midoriya would say. Him grinning like a madman. And trying to think. Okay, what does he do? What magic does he take on? Does he level stuff up? Does he do anything else? What does he do now? Now, with that being said, Midoriya he is then informed by Lee, who does burst through the door after hearing Midoriya talk. She does directly look at her master. Her running up to him as her tail's wagging furiously. Her jumping on him and saying, he's finally awake. Sir's finally awake. Now, she would go to hand him a mug, saying that they're celebrating the victory he's had. Of course, the first thing you want to do when I wake up is start drinking. Sir, do you not want to celebrate? Midoriya going to grab the mug from her hand and saying, fuck yeah, he's going to celebrate. He just killed a dragon. Now, Midoriya he does start to chug, as he does then go to stand up and go to walk out. As you do actually have Belle, who she is sitting down and at least looking down at the bed. Now, Midoriya, he does look at her. Belle. Yes, Josiah? Aren't you going to come with us? But I didn't do anything. I was useless in that battle. That's untrue. What? You said it yourself. You saved my life. If you didn't heal me, I'd be dead, right? You did help. In fact, if I had to say it in a way I don't want to, I owe you my life. So, come on. Let's party. Now, Belle, she would look at Dorziah. He does seem rather strangely relaxed. However, at the same time, he's trying to be calm. It's a strange change of pace. Now, she does get to stand up. She is happy that she did at least help Dorziah in a way that was useful. And she does ask him if he can teach her any new spells tomorrow, or in the upcoming weeks. Midoriya talking about how he'll at least try and look to see what he can teach her. Now, everybody, they do party, and they're celebrating the fact that they're still alive. Drinks are on the house tonight, because this is a truly wondrous occasion. There are parades being held, and the dragon, its body, what's left of it, is at least being held onto by the Royal Knights, since they're trying to at least put a location, or at least put an area around it where its body is. They want to get resources from it and see what they can scavenge. Now, with that being said, I do hope you guys enjoyed, and have an amazing day. I'll catch you guys in the next part.